The grand hall of the Galactic Council shimmered like a sea of light. Every pillar carved from crystal that sang with soft tones as the guests moved. Hundreds of alien nobles sat in silence, their eyes focused on the raised throne where Princess Serenia rested beneath a veil of silver mist. The hall reeked of perfume and pride. But beneath the glow, the air was tense. Tonight, a human had been invited. A creature from a young world still whispered about in half fear, half curiosity. Captain Elias Ward stood near the lower platform, his uniform plain compared to the jeweled garments around him. He was there as a guest, not a warrior. Yet his presence drew whispers. For humans were known for their bluntness, their inability to hide emotion. The princess, they said, had scars, a reminder of a border explosion that nearly killed her. Scars that no one dared mention. Scars she hid beneath shimmering cloth. The council called this evening a peace celebration, but Elias could feel the weight of judgment in every alien gaze. The music faded, replaced by a low hum as Serenia rose from her seat. Her voice was calm, beautiful, but edged with sorrow. "Captain Elias, you saved my life once, did you not?" Elias nodded. "I did what anyone would, Your Highness," he said simply, his tone neither proud nor fearful. Her eyes gleamed from behind the veil, bright like molten silver. "Anyone?" she echoed softly. "No, Captain, not anyone. Only humans rush into fire for strangers." The hall murmured with unease, and a faint smile touched her lips before fading. Then came the question no one expected. "Tell me, human, do you find me hideous?" The chamber froze, forks stopped mid-air, and 1,000 jeweled eyes turned toward him. Even the air seemed to hesitate. Elias blinked, unsure if he heard her right. "Your Highness, you heard me," she said, her voice steady but trembling underneath. "No one here dares answer me honestly, not even my counselors. But I am tired of silence. I want a human answer." The alien lord shifted uncomfortably, their scaled hands gripping the table edges. Truth, in their culture, was a blade, and to use it against royalty was a crime. But Elias was human, and humans had never learned how to lie with beauty. He bowed his head slightly, then looked at her directly, his voice low but clear. "I do not find you hideous, Princess," he began, "but I see pain, carved into you by those who should have protected you." Gasps rippled through the hall like a storm. Elias continued, unshaken. "Where they see scars, I see proof on proof that you survived what they could not." The hall went silent. For a heartbeat, no one dared breathe. Then Serenia lifted her hand, the veil slipping just enough for light to touch her face, revealing the faint shimmer of markings that traced her skin like constellations. Her beauty was strange, not perfect, but powerful, alive. Her voice was soft when she spoke. "And you see this as strength?" "Yes," Elias replied. "Every mark tells a story. One only survivors carry." Her lips trembled, and for the first time that night, the princess looked away. A counselor rose, his armor creaking. "Blasphemy!" he hissed. "No one speaks of royal flesh with such vulgarity." But Serenia raised her hand again, silencing him. Her gaze never left the human. "You have spoken what none dared to say, Captain," she whispered. "And though your words wound me, they also free me." Elias bowed his head respectfully, unsure if he had just saved his life or doomed it. When the banquet ended, the hall emptied in uneasy silence. Elias walked toward the exit, but a royal guard blocked his path. "The princess requests your presence," he said, voice cold but respectful. Elias followed, his boots echoing down the marble corridors lit by blue firelight. He was led to a quiet chamber filled with starlight pouring through crystal windows. Serenia stood by the balcony, her veil gone, her face bare to the night. "You spoke without fear," she said quietly. "Even knowing they would condemn you," Elias nodded. "Truth shouldn't depend on permission, Your Highness." She turned to face him, her eyes shimmering like a dying star. "Do all humans believe that?" "Most," he said softly. "And those who don't, learn it the hard way." A faint laugh escaped her, tired but genuine. "You risked your life for honesty, human." He smiled faintly. "And you risked yours for pride. I think we're even for the first time." She smiled, not the cold royal smile of the court, but something fragile human outside. The alien moons drifted in silence, their light touching the scars on her face. She lifted a hand to her cheek, whispering, "Maybe pain is not always weakness." Elias bowed. Sometimes, princess. It's the beginning of strength. The moment lingered, heavy and quiet, as if the universe itself was listening. Somewhere beyond the palace walls, the council murmured of outrage, scandal, and punishment. But in that silent chamber, a fragile understanding was born, one that would soon shake the entire Galactic Council. And as the night deepened, Serenia whispered to herself, "Perhaps humans are not as simple as they seem." Her reflection in the window smiled faintly back. Glowing beneath the scars, the banquet of silence had ended, but the storm it awakened had only just begun. The next morning, the Galactic Council chamber buzzed with unrest. Every noble, every general, and every scholar whispered the same thing. The humans spoke truth to royalty. Such a thing had never happened before, not in centuries of galactic politics. Some called it bravery, others called it treason, but everyone agreed on one thing. The humans' words still echoed through the halls like thunder that refused to fade. Captain Elias Ward stood outside the council chamber, guarded by 2 soldiers with plasma spears. He wasn't sure if he was there to be thanked or executed. His heart beat steady, but his eyes remained calm. Humans, after all, had faced worse odds before. Inside the chamber, voices clashed like blades, arguing whether the princess had been insulted or enlightened. And then the heavy doors opened and a single voice called out, "Bring the human in." Elias stepped into the great hall. The alien lords sat in a crescent formation, their glowing eyes sharp with judgment. At the center stood Princess Serenia, no longer veiled, her scars visible under the soft blue light of the council dome. The air grew thick as everyone turned to look at her. Elias bowed. "Your Highness," he said simply. Serenia's voice was calm, but her tone carried power. "Captain Elias, do you know what your words have done?" Elias kept his eyes steady. "I know I spoke the truth," one counselor spat. "You humiliated your host and desecrated royal dignity." Elias turned to him slowly. "If honesty is humiliation, perhaps the problem isn't the truth. It's your pride." A low growl echoed from the alien benches, but the princess raised her hand. Silencing them all, her expression was unreadable, her voice softer now. "And what did you mean when you said my scars were proof?" Elias took a breath, choosing his words carefully. "In my world, scars aren't marks of shame," he said. "They're stories, reminders of what we've endured and survived." He looked around the hall, meeting the gaze of every alien who dared hold his eyes. "Humans don't hide pain, we carry it, because it teaches us what we are capable of." A silence fell again, heavier than before for most in the chamber. The idea was foreign, almost impossible. Serenia looked down at her hands, her claws faintly trembling. Her voice was quiet. "In my people's eyes, perfection is sacred. Flaws are failure." "Then," Elias replied, "perhaps it's time perfection learned something from failure." Gasps erupted from every side. But Serenia didn't silence them this time. Instead, she smiled faintly. A small, almost rebellious smile. "You speak like no one else I've ever known, human," she whispered. "And yet, your words make sense." One elder slammed his staff against the floor. "Princess, you cannot let this insolence stand." But Serenia's eyes burned with quiet defiance. "Enough," she said. "No more lies disguised as respect." The elder froze, stunned into silence. Elias realized something had shifted. The princess was no longer defending herself. She was questioning everything, and the council did not know how to answer. Later that night, when the chamber had emptied, a royal guard found Elias again. "The princess requests your presence once more," he said. Elias followed without question, his footsteps echoing through the crystal corridors. He entered a quiet observatory, filled with floating starlight. Serenia stood by the glass, gazing at the distant nebula, her reflection mixing with the stars. "When I was young," she began softly, "my tutors told me pain makes one unworthy of command." Her voice wavered. "But when the explosion burned my body, none of them came to save me. It was a human ship that did." Elias said nothing, simply listening. Serenia turned to face him. "Tell me, Captain, why do humans run toward fire while others run away?" Elias smiled faintly. "Because running away never saved anyone." She looked at him for a long time, her gaze unreadable. "You confuse me," she said at last. "Your people confuse me. You live such short lives, yet you act as if you have forever." He shrugged gently. "Maybe that's why we try so hard, and because we know we don't." Her eyes softened, her voice a whisper. You said my scars are proof I survived. But what if I don't feel like surviving was enough? Elias stepped closer. Then make them mean something, he said quietly. Pain only wins when you let it define you. Serenya's eyes glimmered in the starlight. For the first time she seemed smaller, less a ruler and more a soul searching for meaning. I don't know if I can, she said. You can, Elias replied, because you already did. A long silence filled the observatory. Outside, the stars shifted, casting light over the alien princess and the lone human standing beside her, two beings from worlds apart, bound by words that neither could forget. Finally, Serenya said, Tomorrow, the council will demand I punish you. Elias nodded. I expected that. She turned toward him, a spark in her eyes. But I won't. Let them talk. Let them rage. For once, they will listen to a voice that isn't theirs. Her voice was firm now, filled with something new. Resolve, Elias bowed. Then tomorrow, princess. You won't be alone. She looked at him, truly looked at him, and for the first time since her scarring, she didn't see pity in someone's eyes. She saw respect as he left the chamber. Serenya whispered to herself, The human's words may destroy everything I know, but maybe that's what the truth is meant to do. And as dawn approached over the alien city, the echoes of his honesty still lingered in the halls, soft, defiant, and unstoppable. The next day began under a pale green sky, the alien suns rising slowly over the silver domes of the capital. Captain Elias Ward stood by the palace balcony, watching the ships glide silently through the air. He knew his time among the stars was running out. The council would not let a human's words go unchallenged. But before the storm could strike, a royal messenger arrived, bowing deeply. Her Highness requests your presence in the lower chambers. Elias followed the messenger through narrow halls lit by soft, bioluminescent lines that pulsed with each step. He was led to a place few had ever entered, the Vault of Memory. The door hissed open, revealing the princess waiting beside a crystal pillar glowing with stored light. Her veil was gone, her scars fully visible now, faintly shining like rivers of silver across her face and neck. There was no shame in her posture. Only quiet sadness, Captain, she said softly. Before the council tears us both apart, I want you to know the truth. Elias nodded, saying nothing. Serenya touched the pillar, and an image flickered into life. Holograms of war, fire, and betrayal. You were told that an enemy fleet attacked me, she said. But that was a lie. Elias frowned slightly. Then what really happened? Her voice shook. My people did this to me. He stared at her, stunned into silence. They needed a reason to unite the outer colonies, she continued, her claws curling against the crystal. So they staged an attack, and on me, their own princess. The hologram shifted, showing alien soldiers detonating charges near her transport. They made me a symbol of sacrifice, and when I lived, they called it divine mercy. Her tone hardened. But it was never mercy. It was manipulation. Elias clenched his fist slowly, his voice low. They used you as a tool. Serenya nodded. Yes, a perfect face to mask imperfect politics. She turned toward him, her eyes glowing faintly. My scars are not from an enemy's weapon, Captain. They are from my own throne. Elias felt the weight of her words settle like stone. All the respect, all the worship the galaxy gave her, built upon a lie. And she had carried it alone for years. Her people admired her for surviving. Never knowing who the real enemy was, why tell me this? Elias asked quietly. Because, she said, you are the only one who didn't lie to me. Her gaze softened. Everyone else praises what they fear. You simply told me the truth. She stepped closer, the air humming faintly with her energy. Do you know what it means for a princess to trust a human? Elias met her eyes. It means she's tired of being alone. For a moment, she didn't answer, only smiled sadly. You humans, she whispered. You always find the wound beneath the armor. She turned back to the hologram and tapped a symbol, revealing recordings of council meetings. Elias listened as alien voices argued, planning wars, shifting blame, twisting history. Serenya's own name was used as justification for invasions. This is the truth they fear, she said. If I show them this, the council will fall. And if you don't? Elias asked. Then I remain their puppet, she said, her tone steady. And my scars will mean nothing. He looked at her, seeing not a ruler but a survivor fighting her own empire. You can't do this alone, he said. Her eyes flickered with doubt. And what would you do, human? Stand beside me against an empire that sees you as lesser? Elias smiled faintly. We've stood against worse odds before. She tilted her head, studying him. Why risk yourself for me? Because, he said quietly, truth isn't meant to be hidden, no matter the species. The silence that followed was heavy but not hopeless. Serenia took a deep breath and whispered, Then help me, Captain. Help me show them what I truly am. Elias nodded once. Tell me what you need. She looked up, determination hardening her face. Tomorrow, during the council session, I will reveal everything, but I need someone to speak for me, someone who is not bound by their rules. Elias understood immediately. A human. She smiled faintly. Exactly. He stepped closer, lowering his voice. If we do this, they might try to kill you. Her eyes shone with quiet fire. They already tried once. Elias felt a strange mix of respect and fear, not for himself, but for the strength she carried beneath her calm. He realized then that her scars weren't marks of weakness, they were armor, forged in betrayal, polished by truth. When the meeting ended, Serenia placed her hand lightly over his. Whatever happens tomorrow, she said softly, know that your words changed me. Elias bowed slightly. And your truth changed me. As he left the vault of memory, he could still hear the faint hum of the hologram, a silent promise that the next dawn would bring not peace, but revelation. Outside, the alien city glittered under starlight, unaware that its ruler's secrets were about to burn in the open. The human who spoke truth and the princess who bore it had joined hands against a galaxy built on lies, and somewhere deep within the palace walls, the council prepared for what they thought would be a trial. But what awaited them was something far greater, the awakening of a broken princess and the courage of a single human. The next day, the Galactic Council chamber glowed with cold light, its ceiling filled with hovering emblems of 100 alien species. The air was heavy with tension. Word had spread that the princess had summoned a full assembly, something done only in times of crisis. Every noble, every commander, and every ambassador gathered in silence, their eyes fixed on the grand podium. And at the center stood Princess Serenia, unveiled, tall and unshaken, her scars gleaming like molten silver beneath the light. Captain Elias Ward stood to her right, dressed in his plain human uniform, his posture steady. Many in the crowd whispered his name with disgust, calling him the insolent human. But Serenia didn't flinch. Her gaze sharp as a blade, she raised her hand, and the chamber fell completely silent. Members of the council, her voice rang out, clear and commanding. For years you have called me the symbol of sacrifice, the survivor of an enemy's fire. She paused, letting her words echo. But today, I will show you the truth. Her fingers brushed the small device at her side, and suddenly the air shimmered. The holographic memory from the vault appeared above them. The counselors gasped as they saw the truth unfold. Explosions not from enemies but from her own guards. Voices, familiar ones, giving orders to destroy her ship. Her people's betrayal, captured forever in light. Elias watched as the entire chamber erupted into chaos. Accusations, disbelief, and fear flooded the air like a storm. A high elder slammed his staff. Lies! Forged imagery, treason, but Serenia's voice rose above them all. I carry these scars as proof of your deceit. She stepped forward, her energy flaring, her voice trembling with fury and pain. You made me your weapon, your puppet, and called it mercy. Elias could see her hands shaking. Not with fear but rage, he stepped forward, his voice calm but cutting. I am human, and I saw what your own people tried to hide. The crowd turned toward him, hundreds of alien eyes filled with hatred and confusion. Elias continued, we humans have a saying, truth burns, but it cleanses. He pointed toward the hologram. You can hide behind your titles, your laws, your pride, but none of that will change what she survived. Some shouted for his arrest, others begged for silence. But Serenia raised her hand again, commanding attention. You all wanted perfection, she said, her voice breaking but strong. Yet you built it on lies. Her gaze swept the room. A human showed me what honesty truly means, not obedience. Not fear but courage. The chamber froze. As if her words had carved through stone, one of the elder generals rose from his seat, his armor gleaming black. You risk war, Princess, he warned coldly, reveal too much, and you will destroy our unity. Serenia stared him down. Then our unity was built on weakness. A hush fell. No one had ever spoken to the general that way. Her tone softened slightly as she continued. If a human from a forgotten world can speak truth in a room full of rulers, then perhaps the galaxy needs more humans, the general snarled. He should be executed. But before he could take a step, Serenia's energy flared. A radiant pulse of light surrounded Elias. The guards stumbled back, shielding their eyes. She stood tall, voice echoing through the chamber. Touch him, and you will answer to me. The hall fell dead silent, the weight of her authority undeniable. Elias turned to her quietly, his voice low. Princess, she met his gaze. You risked your life to show me the truth, Captain. Now it's my turn. She stepped up to the council's central platform, placing her hand over her chest. I will not hide my scars, she said. They are not shame. They are the memory of my people's crimes, and my promise to never repeat them. The chamber was still. Not a whisper dared break the silence. Even those who had condemned her minutes ago now looked uncertain. Elias watched as something shifted in the air, fear giving way to respect. One by one, a few counselors rose and bowed their heads. Then more followed until nearly half the chamber had lowered in silence. The old general's voice trembled. You would tear down centuries of rule. For what? For a human's words? Serenia's answer was soft but unyielding. For truth. The chamber lights dimmed as she deactivated the hologram. Her last words echoed across the hall like a quiet storm. If truth comes from the mouth of a human, then perhaps the galaxy has forgotten what it means to be alive. With that, she turned away from the council bench. Her movements slow, regal, and resolute. Elias followed her down the steps. Every eye in the hall locked on their backs. For the first time in galactic history, silence didn't come from fear. It came from realization. Outside the chamber, the air was still. The suns glimmering through the crystalline arches. Elias finally spoke. You just declared war on your own council. Serenia gave a tired smile. No, Captain. I declared peace with myself. And as she walked past him, the echoes of the trial still hung in the air. Not as condemnation, but as the birth of something new. The trial of truth had ended, but its fire had only just begun to spread. The palace stood quiet that night, its crystal towers glowing faintly under the twin moons. But inside the council fortress, chaos boiled beneath the silence. The revelations had shattered old alliances. Some called for rebellion, others for the princess's immediate removal. Guards patrolled the corridors with nervous eyes, their claws tightening on plasma rifles. And in the midst of the unrest, Captain Elias Ward stood at the window of his quarters. Watching the alien skyline burn with flickering lights, he knew this silence was only the calm before the storm. Any moment, the council could decide that both he and the princess were too dangerous to live. Still, his heart felt strangely steady for the first time. Truth had been spoken in the heart of the galaxy, and it had come from a human voice. The door hissed open softly and Princess Serenia entered, her royal armor replaced by a simple dark robe. Her scars shimmered under the soft blue light, but her expression was calm, almost serene. They will come for us soon, she said quietly. The elders won't forgive what happened today. Elias nodded. I know, he said, his voice calm, but they can't erase what the galaxy saw. She walked closer, stopping beside him at the window. You don't understand, Captain. I didn't just defy them. I broke our oldest law. Elias looked at her. The law of silence? She nodded slowly. No one is allowed to speak against the council, even royalty. For a long moment they stood without speaking, the light from the moons painting their reflections across the glass. Finally Elias said, If truth destroys their power, then maybe it deserves to. She gave a soft laugh, tired but real. You humans always think rebellion is the answer. He smiled faintly. Not rebellion, honesty. Sometimes that's the sharpest weapon. Suddenly, the door burst open and royal guards flooded the room. Weapons raised, the lead soldier shouted. By order of the council, the human is to be detained for questioning. Elias didn't move, but Serenia stepped in front of him, her voice cutting through the air. Lower your weapons, she commanded. The guards hesitated. Your Highness, he's the cause of... I said lower them, she thundered, her energy flaring with such intensity that the air itself trembled. The guards froze, their armor humming from the pressure of her power. Slowly, they lowered their rifles, unsure what to do. Serena's eyes glowed bright as fire. "From this moment forward," she declared, "Captain Elias Ward of Earth is under royal protection." The lead guard stammered. "Princess, the council will answer to me," she said, her voice cold and absolute. The guards retreated silently, the doors sealing shut behind them. Elias exhaled slowly. "That won't hold them off for long." Serena turned toward him, a faint smile touching her lips. "No, but it will buy us time." "Time for what?" he asked. She looked out the window, her eyes on the distant lights of the city. "To show them that honesty can lead, not destroy." Hours later, the council convened an emergency meeting. When Serena entered the chamber, every seat was filled, every light burning. Elias followed her quietly, standing once more at her side. No guards, no advisors, no masks, only truth. The hall was tense, filled with whispers and anger. The High Elder's voice cracked through the air. "Princess Serena, you stand accused of spreading lies, of treason, and of endangering the unity of our empire." Serena stepped forward, unshaken. "Then let me face my judgment here." "Before all," the elder sneered, "you admit guilt?" "I admit truth," she replied calmly. "If that is guilt to you, then perhaps you should all share it." The room rippled with murmurs. Elias stepped beside her, his voice low but clear. "If speaking truth is treason, then humanity has been guilty since its beginning." The elder slammed his staff. "Silence, human." But the chamber didn't fall silent, it erupted. Voices rising in defiance for the first time. Counselors shouted in defense of the princess. Others stood to protect the human who dared speak. Serena raised her hand, and slowly the noise faded. Her voice was calm, strong, and full of quiet authority. "I will not fight you," she said. "I will not lead you with fear." She looked around the hall, her eyes glimmering with tears that refused to fall. "I only ask this: if a single human's truth can shake this council, then what does that say about your faith in lies?" A long, heavy silence followed. No one moved. No one spoke. Even the High Elder looked away, unable to meet her gaze, and in that stillness, something shifted. The weight of fear finally cracked. One by one, council members lowered their heads in shame. Others stood in quiet respect, and slowly, the hall of arrogance became a chamber of reflection. Elias stood beside her. Watching as the mighty council bowed, he whispered, "You did it." Serena smiled faintly, her voice soft. "We did." The elder dropped his staff, its sound echoing like a final verdict. The trial, the lies, the years of silence were all ended in that moment. As the princess turned to leave, the hall remained quiet. Not in fear, but in respect. Even the guards bowed as she passed. When they stepped outside, the alien sky had begun to lighten with dawn. Serena looked at Elias and said softly, "Do you know what your people's honesty did today?" He smiled. "It made the galaxy listen." She nodded, her gaze distant but peaceful. "Then maybe that is humanity's true power." And as they walked into the rising light, the palace behind them glowed like a new star, a symbol of something greater than victory, the rebirth of truth. The room that once fell silent from fear now stayed silent out of respect, and in that silence, a new chapter for the galaxy began. Born from a scar, carried by a human, and crowned by a princess who learned to love the truth.